today we're working on the standard of RI 4.2, and what I wanted to do was share with you all the current data that we have for RI 4.2. This is a new standard for us, so what we'll be looking at is the data right now is the baseline, and so what we'll be doing is tracking to see our students grow to mastery through this standard. So currently we're sitting at, for block 1 for Fuchi is 6% mastery, 50% partial mastery. For block 2 of Fuchi, it's 17% mastery, and then 33% mastery for partial mastery. For block 1 of Packard is 30% mastery and 40% partial mastery. Block 2 of Packard is 23% mastery and 41% mastery. So what I want to say is kudos on you guys getting them to at least partial mastery, and if you look at your numbers of mastery combined with partial mastery, if we can get all of our students that are sitting there over, our average for a grade level will be over 55%, which is huge. Okay, so what I want you to do is go ahead and go to slide 3 and pull up the standard with the link that I've shared with you. And on your purple post-it, once we get those up and you guys give me the go-ahead, Fuchi, if you'll time us for a minute, I want us to write down everything that we can think of that a student would be able to know, understand, do in order to show mastery of that standard. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. You ready, Jen? Okay, go. Alright, Juliana, will you be our recorder on the sheet, and Packard, will you be our recorder on the notes section down here on the PowerPoint? And yes, so take that post-it with you. But we'll start with you, Juliana, and recording up of the standard, and we'll just go around until we've exhausted all of our ideas. And if you get to the point where you don't have anything else to say, just say pass and we'll see if we get there.
So to figure out the main idea, they need to know the topic and what the author is saying about that topic.
And they have to know that main idea means what the text is mostly about.
They have to be able to identify key supporting details.
Knowing that the supporting details is how the author proves their point and their role.
And then knowing that a lot of times the main idea is explicit, meaning that it's in the actual text itself. It's just a matter of locating it. Anything else?
I had that they need to be able to explain the connection between the details and the main idea.
Okay. So what we'll do now is we need to look at the teacher exemplar, which is the one that we built together last time in planning. And so this one is the one that's on slide 4 of your presentation. And what I want you to do is I want you to look back at what we drafted. What are the look-fors to show mastery from our teacher exemplar? So Julian, if you'll just create that list underneath the teacher exemplar, what was it that we were looking for a student to show mastery?
Sentence frames.
Okay.
Sentence starters.
Thank you, sorry, to read that other so you can type.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you want me to type or not.
Yes, please, keep the notes. That the main idea supports the topic of the text.
And to go off that the details support the main idea.
And then there needed to be at least 2 details.
And then to explain their thinking, the connection, I guess.
Which is the E, right? From race. Okay, so take a look. Fuchi, look at Montserrat's paper for me. Packard, look at Kyle's paper. And then if you can hand me Brewer's, I want Samantha's. All 3 of those are exemplars. So Brewer should be in your stack, Packard. I just wanted to show her an exemplar.
Samantha?
Yeah, that way I can talk from hers. How does the student exemplar meet the expectations of mastery, and do the student exemplars offer different paths of evidence to get to mastery? So those are our 2 questions. Take a minute to read over what your exemplar student wrote.
That's crazy.
Okay, so let's share out. How does the student exemplar meet the expectations of mastery?
She uses all the sentence starters.
For mine, he not only uses sentence starters, but I'm really proud of him because he used the graphic organizer that I taught him to, because he wrote the topic, and then he wrote important details, and then he pulled out the most important detail, and then he put his topic and his most important detail together and got the main idea, and then he wrote his race response. So I'm super impressed with Kyle.
For Samantha, she definitely does a great job, I think, of pulling the main idea, saying that it was important for the U.S., but then also going back, and even though it's a simple way of explaining it, it's just saying that the evidence that I've given proves, because they're facts about how it's important. And I think the E sometimes is very tricky for our students. So do the student exemplars, this one or the other ones that you've already analyzed, do they offer different paths of evidence to get to mastery? You were having a conversation with me earlier today. Can you go back to that and tell me what you noticed about some of the mastery kids as you compared them to our exemplar?
Just how they work through those steps that we have there, that they're very methodical in what they do, and it's broken down for them. They're not trying to jump, they're not trying to bite off more than they can chew at once. They're trying to do it in steps and work up to it and build.
Rishi, what do you notice?
In mastery, just all around.
In mastery.
Well, mine are doing the same thing. They're writing the topic, the ones who mastered it, and they're using the sentence structure and supporting their thinking, but also explaining their thinking, not just writing it down.
So look at one of your partial master students. So Fuji, pull out Tutus, and Packard, if you'll pull out Layla and Helen for me, because I want to look at Helen's. Take a minute to read and compare.
There's Helen.
your mastery to your partial mastery.
That's interesting.
What are the gaps that you see between the student exemplar and the partial mastery responses?
My partial master, she gave me a fact as her main idea. But she gave me the main idea as a detail, which I thought was kind of interesting.
What do you notice?
Well, it's weird because her annotations are showing me that she pulled out the main idea. And she pulled out the main idea as an important detail. And she broke down the steps, like the topic, picked out the important details, and picked out the one she thought was the most important. But it was kind of like a summary.
So
Detail.
when we're looking at the gap or the errors, we're looking at students doing, let's name those two things. What are they doing if they're not getting to mastery
They're listing important details
as the main idea?
as the main idea.
Can you write that down for us over here?
Sure.
And then what's the second one?
Okay.
Juliana, what did you say your error was?
It sounds like a summary more than a.
So summarizing rather than an explicit main idea and supporting details. So we know that that is the gap. The misconception is some gave a summary and some listed a detail as the main idea and then listed the main idea within it as a supporting detail. So they reversed it. What do we do to fix that misconception?
I think I'm gonna have to go back and look at my other friends, but if this is the trend, then I think I'm gonna go back over like what Kyle did, of how we listed them all, and then we talked about, well, which one of these details really encompasses everything, like kind of like an umbrella, and just kind of looking at it that way, so that they could pick the most important one, because this detail can really explain all these other details, so that makes it the most important. So that would be your main idea then.
Okay, so to summarize what you just said, I see you doing a show call
Mm-hmm.
and pulling a student exemplar for the students to actually evaluate and see the process. So showing them the steps of thinking and then having Kyle's work and having them
That's what
go
I was
back through
thinking.
and track it.
I might show his and be like, okay, tell me what you noticed that he did.
Okay. What about you, Joanna? What do you think?
A lot of my kids are really focused on Thomas Jefferson. Like, most of them focus on Thomas Jefferson.
So
And-
in order to fix that, what would you get them to go back and look at?
I think if all of them went through the same steps, like what is this about? Louisiana Purchase. Instead of
So the ones that said Thomas Jefferson, because you made note of the annotation work for your mastery kids, the ones that said Thomas Jefferson, look at one of them and see, did they label the topic of the text? So they didn't do step one
they didn't do step one.
of the thinking process.
And
So
they're writing character, like they're focusing on,
they're thinking about
They haven't
the
made that
person.
switch from literature to
Yeah.
informational.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're still focused on the person.
So would it be of benefit to do the same situation, the same example of a reteach that Paggard is doing, where you do a show call showing the
The
annotations of?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you also need to do some work on types of
Types of
text.
Yeah. And we started doing that today with our close read.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, now that we know it's nonfiction, what type of nonfiction is it, so we can focus on which details we should be looking for.
And I think it is important to say to them that if this was a biography, it would be a great way to think of character, problem, solution, because in biographies,